Since Adam and Eve, peace be upon them, relationships have always been a catalyst for building our faith. So the real question is, are you being held back? Lack of willpower and negative relationships have shackled many of us. It cannot be emphasized how much our friends, family, and community can limit our horizons and prevent us uncovering our God-given potential. And so when we say Islam is a healing, are we learning Islam within a family context? Whether you plan to get married or are on the verge of divorce or want to level up your goals as a couple, the family program can be the turning point for everlasting relationships. Learn and cultivate thankfulness and forbearance mindsets to become a positive influence to yourself and others. Eventually, you will build a growth mindset that will leave you never looking back as you venture forward to a new life. The Family Program. Learn, heal, grow. Visit family-program.com.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Project Baraka podcast. The topic today is actually quite interesting. A topic so broad and a topic that's so relevant to so many people's lives. So calm down. Don't get upset about it. The topic is anger management. So I don't know why we've called it that, but we called it anger management because it seems to be a common reoccurrence amongst men, and we're men and we know our community and we know the struggles. And I feel that also being men means that we can also sympathize and understand the causes of these issues, right? And so discussing anger, managing anger, because I think managing anger is very important as well, because it's not, I think someone who doesn't actually get angry or feel anger might have something wrong with them. I think they need to get checked. I think there is such a thing as getting angry, clearly, right? And also there are positive reasons to get angry in Islam. At the same time, we can see that everyone has their go-to vice, their go-to sin. And let's be honest, on the side of men, there tends to be like I said, it ranges from culture to culture. So we may not know your life. We may not know what other people are going through. I heard, I think 50% of the women in Egypt, in their husbands and stuff like that.
I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
That's crazy, right? In a Muslim country. So you can see that the cultures sometimes can affect who is calm and so on. But one thing I have to say is in the organization, I've always said openly in our meetings, I've said it at home to my family, that the two people I learn kind of disposition and temperament from in a teaching scenario, always been yourself, right? Because, I will be very, very quick to, if a student talks back, I'll be very quick to shut it down, to kind of quell the rebellion. But at the same time, I might crush something in terms of their will, right? And I usually watch you and I think, why are you letting this happen for? Almost like it's a weakness. But then if you watch the course of the class, they're actually more engaged, less threatened or scared of being in trouble. And I've always wanted to learn that. And I'd never assumed that just because I studied Islamic studies, that makes me an automatic teacher. They're not the same thing. Teaching is a craft. And so Mumin, this is something that I definitely think you are, often they don't do that. Often people do podcasts and they might have people talking about it where, with respect, there's no real skin in the game in the actual work. But as a qualified teacher, as someone who teaches both within the secular space, within the state schools, as well as the Islamic seminaries and the madaris and so on, you have a kind of foot in both sides. So maybe even on that, how do you not go crazy and I thought, some of the kids, you just want to, obviously I'm saying it here, but I just want to buy a giant rubber band and just shoot them out of the window like Angry Birds. Because sometimes they just, you see, I just want to put that kid in the filing cabinet
Yeah.
under W, waste of time. But at the same time, you realize that you got a range of students, problem kids, issues in their background, and so on. And another person he hasn't got that problem in his background. So that's why he's less, you could say antisocial behavior is less in a child who comes from a regulated, settled family. So then you realize you actually sympathize. In fact, sometimes we like the naughty ones, as in there's character, it adds color to our life. So there is this aspect to us that, despite them really impeding the teaching experience and the learning experience, we can see that anger has to be tempered with that mercy and actually managed. Same with yourself in the organization. The amount of issues, front-facing, public, kind of facing the public, especially, we've done retreats, we've done courses, classes, we do so many things.
Yeah.
And in that, I've noticed where I'm quite confrontational, as in I want to just say, excuse me, you manage yourself, I manage 110 people. So let me explain to you calmly why you don't know what you're talking about, right? Whereas what you'll do is carry it with a smile, get the task done, and then think about how we're going to review that matter and how to deal with that thing. I'm quite like, I want to go in there in the jugular. I want to deal with it now. And you've always had this ability to let sleeping dogs lie and then kind of deal with it later. And often I've found, which is, for me, something is outside of my scope of my capability. As in, sometimes you've done things where I would have thought that, oh, that's a weak move. And the problem literally disappeared. So after not dealing with it, when we went back to deal with this thing that you told me to defer, and I said, no, I want to confront, the matter just vanished. That says a lot about what you can do with a cool head in life. So, there's many angles we can take this from, especially since, you're soon to graduate as a qualified counselor.
That's right.
And there's obviously a kind of an interesting what's always interested me is, where does the anger come from? So there's a hadith, I loosely remember it, is in the Musnad of Imam Ahmed. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna khayra rijal." He said, indeed, the best of men, man kana bati'a, the one who's actually bati' al-ghadabi. So the best of men are the ones who are actually slow to anger. It is not that you're quick to anger. You're slow to anger. Sari' al-rida. Yeah? Sari' al-rida means like slow, quick to being calm and satisfied and calm. Do you see? And then he says, wa sharra rijali, and the worst of men, man kana sari al-ghadab, the one who is hastening and just rushing in like he's on fire into anger. But it doesn't take a lot to let that person just let loose. Do you see? Right? Wa bati al-rida. Yeah? And being slow in being calming down. So the worst type of person is quick to anger, and it's the day after. Do you see? And he's still festering at all of these things. Do you see? So there's parenting angles, teaching angles, mental health perspectives. I think the topic of anger is so important in our community. But you know what? Sometimes people I've counseled is they get angry. Let's bring the marriage thing into it, because they feel disrespected. And a lot of the time, men are spoken to, they're not disrespected once, not twice, not 3 times. So, but look, let's stick to the hadith. This is, this is bati al-ghadab. Bati meaning slow to. Yeah, not quick to. So they are slow to getting out. 15th time, and then they just pop, right? So there is something there. On both sides as well, but something definitely where there is a culture that if a man is angry, then he's a violent abuser and out of control. So what happens is he's almost prodded and pushed to prove that he's that label, that stereotype. Do you see? You know, the tyrant, the this, and all of that stuff. But the truth is, many people get angry. They get angry sometimes on the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've seen my wife get, you know, in the road. She's like, you know what? You move first? And I'm thinking, I'm saying, you know, I'm the one who's gonna have to I'm gonna have to do the fighting. You said, you get it? I'm the one who's actually gonna have to deal with it. You can start it. I'm the one who has to end it. So is this fully necessary? Should we just? So there is issues like that where actually anger, and also sometimes anger is put as a boundary because I don't want to go any further than this, yeah, because you think you can just keep going. So there is a problem here, a very real problem, that people are angry for justified reasons, even if the anger is not productive in solving the problem. It's more like a temporary solution. Like even our children, we don't want to get angry at them. You tell them 6 times, the 7th time you're going to be angry. You tell them 3 times, you're going to be angry the 4th time. There has not when they're young, because they don't really understand, you know, the anger. Yeah. What they can understand is like a sharp voice. Like, you know, if one's trying to eat the Lego or some car, no, like, you know, you might, if you ask 7 times, darling, don't eat the thing, darling, don't eat the Lego, darling, don't stick it up your nose. If you say that nicely 7 times, it won't count 7 times. The child actually thinks that you're, I don't know, asking if you want to, I think. Do you see? So there is sometimes where there's like if your child is running into the road, you're going to physically stop them before they get onto the road, right? So there is a moment where you realize that you're just setting up boundaries until they understand. But when they understand, the issue is you need to think how and why is it that they're not understanding. Do you see? And there has to be, as parents, we're not people who don't believe in that there's such a thing called discipline. Like literally now, the word discipline is non-existent. Like it's against the, you know, your child. You know, I don't want my children, you know, we've all got children. You know, decide you want your child to have no inhibitions and completely free and you know, so much confidence. Why would I want a child that is completely confident with not a worry in the world, but an absolute useless? Do you see? Someone who's not actually on their deen, someone who may not save themselves in the akhirah. What is this idea that just, I've met many people who are so comfortable with let's use all the phrases, they're authentic, they've found their inner self, they are confident, they don't need any validation, very confident, just strutting around like, you know, because their parents love them a lot. But, you know, maybe they love them too much. Because when it comes to what pleases Allah, they do what displeases Allah. And what displeases Allah, they're running towards it. So there has to be some sense of discipline. And I think also we have to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, you know, we take some precedence from this, isn't it? Allah says, you know, that indeed my anger, you know, inna rahmati ghalabat ghadabi. Yeah, that indeed my anger has been preceded by my mercy, that my mercy has taken over my anger. So just because that's happened doesn't mean Allah's anger doesn't exist. It's a really nice thing about Surah Al-Fatiha, you see. You say, Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim, the blessed, you know, the path that you have blessed. Yeah, for those you have blessed, an'amta, you have blessed. But when it goes to Allah's anger, which should be the one, and not the ones that has angered you. He says, Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayr al-maghdub. And maghdub is passive. It doesn't tell you who's the ghadib. It doesn't tell you who's the angry one. And some people say because it means Allah, the angels, the prophets, and the salihun, righteous people, they're all angry at you because you didn't follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim. But again, that kind of indicates that there's almost a moving away from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger is necessary in certain situations because it's fair. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish people. There is a sense of discipline and there's a sense of the anger seems to be that I don't want to anger Allah, not because I fear His punishment just only I fear his punishment, which is let's be honest, in society, why aren't people just doing anything that they want? Because they don't want to go to prison, they don't want to get arrested and so on. I don't want to get disciplined, basically. But also an interesting thing is that the anger seems to be an absence of love. It's like when a child sees the anger, there's a little bit of
Fear.
yeah, and the fear is like they don't like me or my parents aren't happy with me. There's like the presence of anger indicates a temporary loss of love. That's what it means. So sometimes the real thing is the way people respond to anger of a parent or disapproval should be a healthy disappointment. I remember in madrasa, this boy was talking. Yeah, I used to go to a madrasa with a lot of Somali boys, you know, mashallah, I love them. I grew up with them. And they were talking and chatting away, and they were chatting, and the guy with the stick, this is back in the day, was standing right behind them, and they were still chatting. They couldn't sense the imam. So they're like, yeah, yeah. And then it was that moment, you know, he went like that. And the imam was there, like with this stick, right? And the boy, it was so institutionalized to the beatings. Yeah, this is what he did. He went, whack. And then the imam walked away. And then he just carried on talking. And the reason is because it's just part of life, isn't it? You know, smack. What about the feeling I don't want to disappoint the imam? That would be more powerful than the stick. He fears the stick more than the one who's holding the stick. What about that, you know, I don't want to lose the respect. I don't want the teacher to lose his faith in my potential. I wouldn't want to lose that. So there's lots of other things I can say from a kind of parental side that, you know, I think first we should recognize it's a real emotion. But
that's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, you mentioned about in relationships especially. I think anger is something that we use as a tool or use a boundary when we set a
It's like I said with the kid, it's a lastminute.com response. It's not the best one, but that's why we start to think because especially sometimes in our culture, there's a strong culture of the anger is some kind of cool way to show how, you know what I mean? In our culture, there is a bit of this as well, right? But secretly, we think it works, isn't it? So this will get results. But actually, even in I believe 90% of what I do that encourages is probably going to give me more results in the future than the 10% I do of the telling off and then disciplining and the this and the that. And you see, I have more trust in that working out than that. But I wouldn't say that, you know, you're so calm. You know, I've seen kids where they're just standing there and the kid's just slapping them. What's wrong with you? Not about slapping the kid, right? But I wouldn't. Kids don't even in their dream. My kids have had dreams. In their dreams, they haven't done it. In their dreams, you see, right? You hold their hand like that and go, "What's wrong?" You get it, and the child will know, "What on earth am I doing?" But there is understanding that you can see within children as they grow up, they're not taught to be kind of emotionally kind of measured like this. It's a problem.
I see.
So I think, there's one thing is about the boundaries you mentioned. What other reasons?
I think that the other one would be, and again, this is something to do with more marriage and sort of relationship, is sometimes someone wants to actually show that they are the boss of the house, or someone who is saying that, look, if you make me angry, so and so consequences will happen. So it's fear, yeah? So it's another thing that I find within, unfortunately, in our sort of Asian Indian subculture community, that somehow anger gets your way of things and gets the wife to listen, or gets your younger children to listen. But in fact, what tends to happen is when they come into counseling or when they come to pastoral care, they find that
solution that don't go to counseling then you won't have these problems.
Well, I think it's right, but people actually then come because they get that themselves and they don't know where it's come from. And that's why they're coming and saying, look, I just get angry after my
That is
wife
one
or something.
thing no hadith is going to save you. You do have to think about yourself, where it comes from. There's no hadith going to say, it comes from here. That's not going to work. So if you faced, you know, like, you know, I don't want to get too autobiographical, whatever, but we come from a generation that we got beats.
Yeah.
Like we actually got thing. I don't know about your generation. Joseph was a bit more gentle, I reckon.
Yeah, it wasn't really like that.
You see, let's be honest, right? But in our generation, it was like there was a lot of that. But the difference, but the difference is that. So that's usually what happens is we say, well, that happened to me, so I turned out all right, so it's okay. This is another issue in itself. But what I've found is if someone's faced that, it tends to show itself in adulthood.
Yeah.
Do you see? Instead of being okay with
Like acceptable behavior.
showing that you've been hurt and offended and all of these things, right? Usually the truth is this also plays out in gender as well. If a woman is angry, a lot of the time her anger will be more manifested in, obviously arguing, everyone argues, but it will be more like crying. You see, that's also not always a healthy emotion, right? Because sometimes crying is what you do when you're wrong. That's what Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers did. They cried. But they're the ones who are the perpetrators. So the people learn from the ayah that even bad people cry. You see, even bad people who are the wrongdoers, the oppressors, they cry when it suits them. But at the same time, you find yourself thinking that the anger is there because that's actually a more of a male expression of disapproval. You see, what are you going to do? Sit there and cry. So it ends up going in this way.
It's like another outlet, isn't it?
Yeah, crying, anger.
Yeah,
They're both emotions.
I think a lot of maybe it's not limited to men, but people will find it as it's like a solution to stop something. Like we said, it's almost like setting your boundary of when are you going to release that emotion. From like a teaching perspective, what I'd say is that any time that I've tried to resolve a conflict using anger, it hasn't worked. And even though the emotion's there, like when you're trying to discipline or consequence a student and it results in you basically shouting at them or being angry, it actually backfires.
Makes you just feel better about your loss of control, but it doesn't change the actual...
No. And you find that, there's like a thing of losing face, especially in like certain settings where, when people are like really angry, that they're not themselves anymore.
That's right.
And you see that side that you don't really want to see. And I've only experienced it a few times, but I've told students in a pre-warning, I'm saying, I'm about to lose it and you don't want to see it because you're not gonna enjoy that experience.
Yeah.
And they prod and push, like we said, they keep doing it and it's disrespect. And when disrespect like builds up, that's when someone just loses it. And probably like a handful of times it's happened in a teaching setting. But every time I've thought I shouldn't have done that. But it's about trying to control it. On the flip side, times where I've got angry and I've rejigged to say, let me try it with a calm approach. 100% of the time it's squashed the situation. I'll give you a couple examples. I know they're not marriage related, but
it can be any.
I came to my driveway and someone's blocked my drive. Imagine my space is there, their car's there. And I'm just thinking, why would someone do that? You can clearly see that's my drive,
that
my
someone
house.
Can't get through there.
Your car means I can't get to it. And I was come back from work, it's like, I just want to get my drive, but don't know whose car this is, don't know what house to knock on. And that just starts sort of building up. And I'm thinking, why would someone do that? And I started to get angry to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to block their car in. And
until they have to speak to you.
Another negative action, isn't it?
Until they have to come and speak to me now.
That's genius. You should have done it.
And then I was about to. I even said to the neighbor, because the neighbor came out, and I said, you know whose car this is? And they're like, I'm not sure, but I think it's someone from that house. And I sort of paused, and I just...
So annoying, though, to have to go around knocking on doors.
I just thought, you're waiting for a guy. Before, let me just try something. I go knock on that door and just say, is that your car? So I went in, super calm. I just said, is that your car? And they said, yeah, sorry, like, is it blocking your drive? They were just really apologetic. They're like, I thought I left enough room. And I said, if you don't mind just reversing it, I can get in. That was it. They literally was like, yeah, no problem. Came out, reversed it. I went in.
Do you know what though? Some people, and I think we should all think like this, is that if that's the purpose of our life, if we don't have a purpose, they'd want the row and they'll talk about it all week.
Yeah.
Yeah. As in there's nothing else to your life.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, although anger, that's going into argumentation. But the truth is, a lot of the time, people, if they weren't arguing, what on earth are they going to do anyway? What were you going to do this anyway? So a lot of the time, you want to have a discussion about how hard done by you are and, you know, this, that, and the other. Because is actually, if you think about it, if you really want to park your car and get on with the life that you're actually happy with, then this thing does not need to become 10x, 5x.
That's it.
Literally just get it done, whatever,
Move on
and get it. I agree.
Another one, it's still, I don't know, it's something to do with road rage and cars, I think.
Yeah.
I was on the flip side. So it was my father-in-law had like parked in someone's space by accident.
Yeah.
But he had gone off somewhere and I was at home. So they knocked on the door, fuming, like just blasted me. And I was just like, what are you talking about? I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. They said, your car is in my space. I said, my car's over there. They said, no, your car from it. I said, oh, that's my father-in-law, but he's not here. And they said, you need to move it. If you don't move it, we're getting someone to, you know, clamp your vehicle and you're going to have to pay a fine. And I just was like, all right, let's calm down for a second. I said, I can't move the car. I'm really sorry. Like, I know it's inconvenient right now, but
there's two sides to it, isn't it? Someone's angry and how you respond.
That's it.
And that's what I face in my counseling is how did you even respond? How did you take it in?
Yeah.
And I think in any case, look, anger, as you mentioned, is a human emotion. It's there to stay. It'll be there with us until we pass away, yeah? But it's how you deal with it.
That's actually a solution. The only time you're not angry is when you're dead. That's the only time it's finished. You know, there's someone raging, and then he's dead. That's the only time some people are not going to be angry anymore.
Hadith for the Prophet where he mentions about, I think it's between a husband and wife, actually.
Yeah.
When he said, if one of you is like fire, the other one should be like water.
Yeah.
To sort of quench it. Because
I've heard something like this,
like two fires together, you got
maybe like Qawl Salaf or something. But yeah, I've heard this,
and
it's definitely the case.
And
it's definitely the case.
You know, even sitting down to restrain. إذا غضبت فاجلس. That when if you find yourself angry, then you sit down.
What you know what's interesting about the hadith was why? And I think one of the interesting things I found about it was anger does subside with the distraction. Just a different, like anger, wudu, anger, sitting down, anger, lying down.
It's almost to like just take your mind off something.
That's
like,
right.
I remember knowing about the sitting down one is like, you know, one of the things we learn about, especially in schools, is people who get angry, one of their instant reactions, I think it's maybe more in boys, but they want to throw things. That's why people flip tables. And it's because they're trying to release the energy. And the first thing is through their hands.
Yeah.
So, you know, in a wisdom, you think if you sit down, it's actually less damage.
It's actually hard to get angry. It's easier to get angry if you're standing up and, you know, shaking your fist. If you're sitting down, I mean, it's actually harder to be angry. You kind of look, and then lying down flat and being angry. You look even more funny, right? So
science to it.
Yeah. So there's some interesting thing about being. I think Wallahu ta'ala alam. You know, the hadith is the hadith and it works. But you know, I think your blood pressure and certain things isn't they lower, and there's a difference when you're sitting down.
One more thing, is that. Something I've noticed, maybe just during my time, is it's very hard to be angry at someone who's really calm. So I've had, you know, instances where students or children they're fuming, but if you don't give them that reaction, they find it like, imagine screaming at someone and they're just really calm. It's almost like you have to calm down as well because they're not giving a reaction that heats the situation up. So my personal thing is I found when you're calm in certain situations, it brings everything down and you can actually have a conversation about something. Whereas if you rise up to the reaction, that's when things are going to get heated, you know, fists are going to come out and who knows what's next.
Something interesting just in terms of dawah as well. Because sometimes people are so angry, right? And they sometimes think they're taking the voice of God. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ulaika humul kafirun," right? And you know, this anger. And actually, you just don't like people, or you just like to feel better than people. There's a big difference between you splicing religion with and aligning with your nafs, as opposed to your nafs aligning with the religions. Yeah, there's a big difference. You aligning your nafs to the religion and being angry for the sake of Allah is not the same as you using the sake of Allah because you were pre-angry. You came angry, mate. You didn't even need the religion. If it wasn't this, you'd been. So there is a thing where the deen has to also be. We have to be very delicate, yeah, and careful in the way that religion is used to justify that. Oh, I don't care. X, Y, Z is happening in the world, so I'm angry. So I'm going to do something that's disproportionate or wrong or unfair, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ, this man came up and said, "Give me advice," and he's always been advising people that anger is one of the real sources of. It's one of the things that Shaitan gets total control. Okay, to manage now what you're going to do next. You just handed in your willpower. You see, so I think one of the issues is from a kind of perspective of how people deal with their relationships. I think anger, what would be better is what the Prophet ﷺ said. The fact that people are slow to anger, meaning there is anger. Yeah, and they're quick to calming down. This is very important as well. Right? I think the more dangerous, potent one is the one quick to anger and then taking forever to fix things. He said, "Sharra rijal, yeah, man kana sari al-ghadab wa bati al-rida." So I think this is something where the Prophet said, don't judge when you're angry. That's a very interesting thing. Why would you not want to adjudicate as a qadi, as a mufti when you're angry? It's very simple, because when you're angry, it's like an intoxicant. When you're angry, you are not in full cognition of what's going on to make a sound judgment. You could be biased. You could disproportionately view something because of a personal experience. You might not be objective. That anger or any emotion to the extreme actually causes a problem in objectivity with making judgment. Anger affects good judgment.
People say things that they don't actually mean, and then later will say, actually.
It's like, I think you mentioned in various sort of settings that when people angrily give talaq, I know it's a topic in our community. One of the things like a jurist will do is say, look, what was your state of mind? What was the situation at that time? And 9 times out of 10, he'll say,
too many guys claiming temporary insanity, if you ask me. But there is a lot of that, isn't it? It's this thing about, no, of course, I was angry though. Well, of course, you weren't happy, were you? You didn't say, oh, it's been such a lovely day, I think I'd give you a divorce, right? You never do that when you're happy. You do that when you're upset.
Yeah.
Again, this is where you see the anger has led to so many talaqs, has led to people not knowing, like they're walking on eggshells. They don't know whether there is, like, if you know, here's a path to good cohesion in the home or in the classroom, or in parenting, then the edges of that is, I'm going to upset my mom, or I'm going to upset my spouse, or I'm going to, you see, so there's boundaries. But when a person feels that even if they do what is halal, what is correct, what is Islamic, somehow they're still going to end up making someone angry, that actually causes anxiety in the other person. Do you see? Even if the person was just in the anger, a lot of the time people don't understand how to deal and process that. Do you see? You're found sometimes where if you're strict with a child, right, in response to the strictness, what he was messing up, he messes up more. He's fuddling everything because he can't think straight. And I think that inability to think straight creates adults who are just numb, men who are just numb. They don't know how to deal with it. It's just either explode or, or just seethe. Yeah. I think that's something that, we need to get to the bottom of, because the truth is I've found that in a lot of situations, the husbands are in the right. They're in the right because they had certain expectations, okay, for the wife to do certain things in the house and the home and the family, and they didn't do it. I haven't really met a wife. Actually, I have. See, I want to be frank. I have met many sisters who are angry at their husbands because their husbands have not been fulfilling their role as someone who can cover the bills, be a breadwinner, and make the... I'm not talking about holidays. I'm not talking about expensive cars, just life, just pay for living expenses. That's the case. But on both situations, in this case, the men, that the reason why they were angry is because they couldn't take dealing with certain behaviors. So what they ended up doing is they do what I describe in counseling as ruining being right. That they poked and prodded, poked. And one thing is there's a lot of men who don't know how to sit down and calmly articulate how someone else is wrong.
100%.
You see?
Yeah.
They don't know how to articulate. And unfortunately, even some know how to articulate that. And there's women, the spouses, who will try to be insincere even, yeah? Not admitting to fault. And what happens is when someone doesn't admit to fault, you think, that's it, forget it, all bets are off. I'm just going to get mad. And so a lot of men I've dealt with, so what I deal with does not mean all men or no men, somewhere in between, right? That they were in the right. They messed it all up because they got angry and they ruined being right. And we this is where the Prophet ﷺ's hadith, which became an entire legal maxim, meaning a statement that seems to comment on the shape of the whole of Islam, something that has a universality about it. When he said, "Wala darar, wala dirar," and in another narration, "Wala la darara, wala idrar." Yeah, "Wala darara, wala dirar, wala darara, wala idrar," meaning that there is no harm, which everybody gets. I mean, who's going to say, "No, our harm is amazing, I love it, give me some more," right? Nobody does that. Harm is bad. But it's the other bit we've got a problem with. There's no reciprocation of harm. Once you're hurt, how do you respond? There's probably a guy on the road at 7:30 in the morning cutting someone off. I wouldn't know much about this. I'm a pedestrian, right? But then when he cuts him off, there's this moment where I've seen drivers here. They go, "It's like that, isn't it? It's like that. Okay, I'm not giving way to anyone today." You see,
For the rest of the...
come 4:30 on the M25. There's some guy angry with a guy. He doesn't know why he's angry at the guy, and the other guy doesn't know why he's angry with him. Like, who made you angry? Do you know who made him angry? A isnad of ijazas going all the way down to 7:30 in the morning. It was started off with that one guy, and that guy said, "Well, it's going to be like that, is it?" And then the next person went, "It's going to be like that, is it?" And because we take it on this person because of the harm there, he then takes it on him because of the harm there. He takes it out on her because of the harm there. She then takes the harm out on her. And so there becomes like a chain reaction of people being angry, because at the original situation, there was no sense of justice, no recourse for that harm. And so the people go into reciprocating harm. Because if I can't fix it, I'll just make you feel as bad as you make me feel. That's the mindset, yeah? You want to know how bad, you want to deal with this? No more debates. What I'll do is I'll just make you feel how you make me feel. And then that's what creates that sort of environment. And I think for anger management, I think a lot of the time people need to analyze how they were parented. Definitely something to look into. Yeah. And also the anger is also a feeling of loss of control.
Definitely. Yeah.
And you have to ask why you want so much control. Actually, you have to ask, is that control valid and are there invalid aspects of control? You'll find that some men, they have invalid needs to control, meaning aspects that just are so silly, micromanaged nonsense, right? If you got the wife to say, you're going to deal with this, why is it that you want to know every detail how you do it? You see, just as long as it's within the ballpark of, the ballpark of doing it, what goes on in there, leave it or do it yourself. But then do it and then watch, go this way, that way. And if you've got so much time to see everything like this, might as well just go and do it. Better thing to do is delegate, let it get done, and also see the outcome of it, and then say that maybe if we do it this way, we'll get a better, usually a better result makes it easy for the one who's doing it. Why would if you told me there was a shortcut in doing something, why would I go, no, I like the long way. I like making my life misery. No, I would take the shortcut. So why not just allow it to, because also what happens is people who micromanage, they don't understand that there's factors being considered. So in this case is the wife, right? There's factors considered that, you know what? You think I'm only dealing with this one thing, which is the child and the clothes, washing the clothes and so on. But you don't know, for example, that I had to pop out because there was no formula for the baby. I also had to deal with this neighbor coming and asking about something, and that took off half an hour at my schedule. I had to also deal with this other issue or this other issue. I had to call the gas company and wait 45 minutes on the line. You see? So because I had to do all of those things, and then I've reached 3:30 and you have left in the morning for work and come back, and then you go, what have you done all day, right? You haven't seen all of that unless you think that you can see into the unseen. You see? So what tends to happen is anger, a lot of it comes from feeling undermined for control that was never your right. And some of it is feeling undermined on control that was your right? But you ruined being right because you disproportionately responded to it. You see? What do you do in a situation where just the spouse just does not listen? You see, in the end, you're just going to have to remember that you're a Muslim worrying about your own progress, even in your marriage, with respect. Yeah, right? And at that point, what you do is you're going to have to deal with a certain situation, and then you're going to have to move on, because not everything can be changed. Not everyone can be changed. People have to want to change themselves. In the long run, let's be honest with you, it doesn't get much done. Yeah, it doesn't get much done. It just creates loads of crippled people who then, hurt people, and it just goes on. And this is one of the reasons why we need to say to ourselves about, in general, about controlling emotions, right? But like I said, sometimes the anger, if you can get that I'm talking about the counseling that I've done. If you can just calm that down, you can find underneath that is actually genuine hurt, where the man actually has a right. He just doesn't know how to express that.
It's about, like you said, communicating, isn't it? So my question is, how long have you been married?
Oh,
is this?
No, you have to think about it.
Actually, you know what? Because it's 2024, let me go in back about 13 years.
13 years, mashallah. Ustad, you've been married
coming up to 21, I think.
And mine is going to be 6 years.
Mashallah.
But my question is, in that time you've been married, I'm sure it's part of marriage, isn't it? You deal with, things get heated, or there's about to be, a sense of anger and emotion coming out. How have you managed to sort of deal with it in certain situations? Or what would your advice be for someone, being married for a certain amount of time and, experiencing that? What's your solution?
I think timing, picking your battles, I think is really important. In the sense that some things, I'll give you an example. I saw this guy, and his son was sitting on his lap, and his son slapped him. He was probably 5 or something. Slapped him straight back.
Oh, the dad slapped him back.
Yeah, because the dad was so feeling shame they slapped him right back.
Mm.
You see? Now, I could list on a book the amount of times I've been trodden on. I don't even go into it right now. You're dragging me 20. I've got 21 years of stories, right? Well, not 21. I've got oldest is 16. So 16 years worth with all the other children involved. You know, that's it, isn't it? They kick you, the walk. There's so much you've had to tolerate. And I think there's a big, clear answer. Differentiate the unintentional from the intentional.
Yeah.
That's the first, I think, very, very important one, right? I would say once you've identified the intentional, I think what's important is knowing, genuinely knowing what a big deal is, as in, and what isn't a big deal. So sometimes there are things that are so mean nothing. You know, like I said, there's people who, once they don't agree with the meal or that they want to eat, whatever, they can't let it go. For me, it's just eat something and get on with the next thing, right? But there is a culture where every little thing matters. And I think I know why, because this is an Aqidah issue. The Aqidah issue is if you make the big things small in your life, the small things become big. That's the definition of petty, by the way. The definition of being petty is all this, don't sweat the small stuff, as they say, right? And I think that's, really, really important. Yeah, look, you know, the bigger conversations. So those are the small issues. The third bit of advice is the big issues. You need to actually don't do, and I call it this in the family program, don't do drive-bys. Everybody hates drive-bys. You can call them gaslighting, you can call them whatever. Drive-bys are horrible. Something big should not be as you're passing, leaving out, going out of the house. Do you see? Or while you're vacuuming and thingy, and it should be that you actually say, so what me and my wife do is we'll say, so this is actually useful. I don't know some of the things we do that are useful, we don't even aware of it. So she'd say to me, are you ready for a bit of a serious conversation? And I will say, no, actually, I'm not. I'm not. You know, because you guys know some madrasa issue or some timetable issue or some headache, right? Of all the organizations run, there's a lot of headaches that come with it. And I'm sorry, I'm just spent right now. No. But what we tend to do is, over familiarity is, you just pile it on. You just meet and blah.
Yeah.
Drive-bys. We got to avoid drive-bys. You see, my wife would book it. So I say, after the kids are asleep, we'll discuss this issue, right? Or do you know when this work-related issue, when does it have to be dealt with? By Monday. Subhanallah, we'll get it done Sunday afternoon, right? There has to be a way of picking moments for conversations that require, I found arguments come from things that require more concentration than we're willing to give it. I really think that there's some discussions that just cause, I think anger is a strong word actually, but it does end up in anger, irritation. Do you see? So there's a big difference if right in the middle of a time where you as a family are going to do something, if you say, let's just have let's just have the family gathering, let's watch TV together or eat some food together, whatever, and let's just make a time and we'll go and talk about this. You see? Because if I can be right now, I'm going to be right in 2 hours. Isn't it? And if I'm wrong now, I'll be wrong in 2 hours. Why do you have to now? So I think timing is really important, because I don't think anger is the first thing that people get to. I think it's irritation. And irritation is because, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what goes on. You know, I watch programs about life 100 years ago, life 200 years ago. Things move pretty slow, to be honest. And even if you move out of London, they get a bit slower, right? If you move out of this country and go to other countries, the first thing people recognize is life is a lot slower. And I think that is why we're a bit pent up, irritated, stressed. You're always like, oh, that's the last thing I needed. I don't want this one extra thing. We're always on the straw that broke the camel's back sort of flex, because of the way that life is. You see, so, I think one advice would be is to obviously differentiate, don't sweat the small stuff, big issues, check whether you're willing to have the conversation or not. Unfortunately, a lot of the time people don't do that. And I think, for example, I have a policy. You guys know about it anyway. Yeah, I have this policy of nothing heavy on a Friday, because in the family program I have to prepare 5 hours of class. You're a teacher, preparing slides and lesson planners don't come down from the heavens. You have to put effort in.
Yeah.
So when you put that effort in, you just don't want any distractions. Do you see? But the time I'm busy is when the ummah become free. If you notice that. So what happens is on a Friday, you know what? I need to speak to you, my wife, my son, my daughter. I need to speak to you. Me and my wife are having a row. I need to speak to you. This, everything in the world. Oh, I need help before, for my lesson. I need to, like, I go Jummah and it's like, come out of the door and it's exactly the shortest distance. Just go home. Then when I go home, I tidy up a few aspects of stuff that I need to get done in the house. And then I'll say, right, the next thing to do is I'll actually do a class in advance so you don't ask me for one in the evening. Do you see? I try to get everything out of the way. I call you and I actually say the words, I just want to get our regular phone call, our work catch up. I just need to get it done behind me. I know another brother's going to call me, so I call him and get it behind me. So that at least by 5 o'clock, I'm on the home straight from 5 to 12 just to prepare it. But it doesn't matter. Every single Friday, people don't check and pounce on a Friday evening. But I think it's important to have those moments where you've got to say that certain periods of time is not there for me to engage with anything. I've got to focus on something. And I think a lot of the time, and I'll end with saying that a lot of the time, frustration in lack of fulfillment in your life as a Muslim and a Muslimah often means you take it out on somebody else. So the minute, like, you're a father, you don't pray, right? I've got many dads who don't pray, and they're so angry at their wife and their children. Waste of time, the lot of them. Disobedient, batameez, no respect, no nothing. And then I ask, why do you want them to follow you? Because, well, I tell them, God told you to obey me. These people are going, but you don't obey God. So if you don't obey God, and I got to obey you for God, I don't really see the motivation in it. Now, can he say you need to obey me because yes, but is it credible? No. Should you be surprised if no one cares what you say? Please don't be surprised. Don't be, because it's very natural that you are direct. Not praying is a direct disobedience of Allah that can people say is tantamount to, really on the edge of leaving this religion. Right? It's such a serious thing. What I mean by that is someone who actually in their mind thinks, I don't have to pray. You see, not I have prayed Jummah once or something, but someone who completely rejects prayer as opposed to neglects prayer. This is tantamount to kufr. And the one who neglects prayer anyway, there's so much sin involved. It's mountains that we haven't even got time to traverse. But what I will say is a lot of people, you'll find that your salah helps in that situation. The amount of times you'll find that if you just prayed, some of these feelings just completely subside. And the prayer is a really, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. That وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Literally seek awn of Allah and sabr bis salah. So patience is the opposite of anger. It's the fire blanket on anger. You see, right? And this is hard, especially when calamities. The Prophet ﷺ said, "As-sabru inda sadmatil ula," that patience is at the first strike of calamity. You see, it's hard when you're first struck with it. But again, I'll say that it's really important in your angriest of moments to try to remember your moral framework. Try to remember that you can't go into God mode. You have to think about actually, I'm still accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about what's right and what's wrong. So even if I win an argument, and I win a fair few, but when I win an argument about being right, once the whole debacle's over, I will actually apologize on how I got there. Do you see? And then try to improve on not having to have got angry. Do you see? Don't get angry. The Prophet said, La taghdab, la taghdab, la taghdab. Don't get angry, because in the long run, it's not going to solve a problem. I understand anger. I understand that someone just says stop and they shout and they go, I understand that. But at some point, you have to realize that the reason why you go to the last break glass in case of emergency sort of mode, the reason why you go to that so frequently. Can you imagine every single time you felt that the room was a little warm, you break the glass for the fire alarm and you evacuate everyone? Every time you smell a little bit of smoke, you see a little some vapor or anything, you break the glass. The reason why that is because people are going into, the way I'd always describe it is, you want to drive a car, you can either learn how to drive and then drive a car, or you can joyride until you get a lifetime ban. And there's a good example of what it means in marriage, that a lot of the time people are at loggerheads because they never studied the religion, they never studied their deen. When they say they're being oppressed, sometimes they're not being oppressed. I'm sorry, that's not a gaslight. Sometimes you think you're being oppressed, but actually you've just been asked what Allah told you to do. And sometimes you feel you're being liberated by your husband. Actually, he's oppressing you. He's oppressing you because he isn't pulling you up on what's right. And vice versa with the husband, right? That sometimes you think you're being oppressed, but actually she has every right to say that. Every right to say that. If you're somewhere like, you're not paying the bills and you're out here and there's so many responsibilities that Allah's, and you think that's oppressive for that person to have that expectation. And you have these words that only another brother will back you up, some other silly one like yourself, isn't it? Someone will go, yeah, man, she's so, she's so demanding and all that. You need a responsible man in that situation to say, what do you mean demanding? That's your job, bro. You need to go do it. You need to spend less time with me and more time fixing your marriage. You see? But I really think that with the family program, we actually helped a lot of people overcome their anger. Unfortunately, what happens is 90% of men who come to me come when the anger has created irreversible processes. When it's almost too late, it's always Nino, ambulance dawah. I don't like ambulance dawah. I don't like two people yelling at me, right? And trying to calm them down and get through the feelings and so on. I would much prefer that before you go into ambulance mode, I mean, is a GP appointment not easier than ambulance mode? And isn't, exercise, diet better than seeing the GP? But what tends to happen is people don't have healthy relationships with themselves and their spouses and with their Lord. Then, they end up saying and doing things that go way beyond, like some stuff that is going to taking it back is not going to be easy. And then what happens is you get to that last point where you come to the ambulance A&E of Islam. The majority of Muslim men, they come to me in the A&E of Islam. They don't deal with their personal issues, their desires issues, their porn issues, their second wife craze, and all the other things that they don't deal with their mindset. What they do is always escapism, always trying to find another way out with some legal loophole, that they are their own faqirs, they are their own ustads, they are their own muftis, they are their own qadis and everything. And then they come for accident and emergency. And then obviously, if you're in accident emergency, emotions are always going to be high. It's better that way before things get hot to deal with things when they're cool. But when they're cool, that's called being in a state of ni'mah. A lot of people, they enjoy the blessings Allah gives them in their marriage and they ignore all the problems. They turn a blind eye, and then their children start growing up and becoming rebellious. Then they go, malaha, what's going on? Like the people, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. When the whole world is shaking, they're like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on, right? A lot of men, they caused everything, right? Or they didn't manage things well. And I want to talk about male perspective because I'm talking about with men, about men and this anger. And then when everything's common, they're like, whoa, why is everything shaking in my life? Nothing's in control anymore. Because you lost that long time ago. You see? And lastly, I want to say that there is a phenomena that anger amongst women is ridiculous today. In our day and age, forget respecting their spouse. You know what? Let's just say it. If your husband gets angry and tells you to be quiet, yeah, you don't say, no, you be quiet. Okay? Because it's both are wrong. Because there's better ways to do it. But you're more wrong. She goes, no way. That's not the case. I don't accept that there's someone in authority. I don't accept it. Okay. So if he was an authority, he should be doing it. Well, is that how authority works? That either it works the way you want it, or they're not an authority. Is he the authority? Is not. He's an authority. Okay, so if your son now, mothers, they tell their son, be quiet, and the son turns around and goes, you be quiet. Say, well, one all. You said be quiet. She said, no. They look at us, right? And they'll go, did you hear what your son, that's your son, it's not her son anymore. Did you hear what your son just said to me? Do you get it? And the dad's going to look around and go, son, are you all right? Have you had an injury? Are you okay? And the son's going to go, oh, no, shouldn't talk to mom like that.
Reminder, yeah.
Right. So why is it like that? Why is it that it's not the same? You see, it's not the same because you are mas'oolah over him and he is mas'ool over you as per the hadith of every one of you, ala kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'oolun an ra'iyatihi. It's a hadith that clearly states this issue. So I would say that to a lot of sisters who have anger issues, you also need to really address what is causing this anger. Yeah, is it that it reminds you of your brown father, your brown dad? Does it remind you of, why you're angry, why your brother came home late and you weren't allowed to come home late? There's all of this anger that comes from your household and you bring it into your marriage. You see, a lot of the time is angry because over socializing. Sisters, just as men, but they have a strong culture these days of over socializing. So what happens is they go meet 5 sisters, trauma sisters, we can call them. And the trauma sisters all have their own husbands that they're whining about. So what happens, she comes home and the minute her husband does something that is fractionally like those 5 men, she goes berserk. So what I'm like that. If I go and read too many comments, I get angry. I just think that's why I don't read them. Because I get so annoyed with this. The people will never cease to amaze me, the things that they can say that are not smart, let's say, right? They will never cease to amaze me. So what I do is I realize, you know what? The real problem isn't that someone has said a stupid thing. The real problem is that that's your headache. You read it. Why did you read it for? Don't go in and find 20 things you're offended by.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. Do you see? So we have to kind of take responsibility for the fact that I think a lot of men and women are looking at their phones way too long, and looking at their phones meaning that they're getting triggered about a million things and they got this dopamine. So the last thing I would say, the anger comes from a sharp dopamine reduction. So things that are making you angry, then you watch things that are pleasurable, food and fashion and Bugatti and this and that and all of this stuff, yeah? And then what happens is that when you yank that away by saying, can you there's something that needs to be done in the house. It just completely, you take a control of a child's hand when he's been playing the computer. If the game requires that much focus, you see he's ratty. He's ratty and angry because you've taken him away from his little
world,
his little escapism and his toy. And this is really, really bad. Do you see? So I think majority of brothers and sisters who are on their phones are more irritable and more prone to anger because of the sharp dopamine drop, because of the shahawat and the attachment to their desires through these apps and through these reels and through these shorts and so on. Do you understand? We've all been there where you saw one thing you were interested in. I don't know how the computer works out your mind, where it says to me, footage you have never seen of Maradona. If you say that, because I can't read I can't see it in the video, they put the words in there, in the video, footage of Maradona that you've never seen. I'm yours, man. I'll be honest with you, I'm so weak. You show me something that I haven't seen of Maradona. I think I've seen everything he's ever done, right? I've seen him do kick-ups with his socks, right? I've seen everything. So when it says that, I'm in. All of a sudden, 25 minutes are gone. You're 15 to 20. You're 25 videos deep.
Yeah.
Right? And when that's repeated again and again and again and again, what happens is that real life responsibilities seem even more heavier. And when they land, you just want to explode because you can't deal with pressure. So keeping a cool head, which with respect to other people, many people who don't have that, you probably guys know, I have to deal with so many things. But my main job is to keep cool enough to keep everything going in my home, in the dawah, in the organization, and with my clients. And that's why, as you know, because your wife is my sister Shumi is the caseworker.
Yeah.
I actually tell you that I just don't want to see any clients for like 6 months or 3 months because I know I'm going to go in there and just blast someone. I don't want to do it, so I just stay out of it. You see, your heart goes out. You want to help someone and so on, but you know if you're not in the right state of mind, don't judge while you're angry. So again, you know, any kind of closing sentiments, comments you guys want to make, I'm leaving it in your capable hands. Give us some advice.
My little bit of advice is something that
the most mellow, lovely brother I've known, you know, and I've learned so much from. Go ahead.
Me and my wife, we do that. So something I noticed about myself, you guys might not know, maybe you see it in the future. I'm actually really stubborn. Like I'll stick to something. Even if I'm potentially wrong, I'm like, it's just something I've got wrong with me. But my wife will persist. So I'll say, I don't want to talk about it now. And we're about to fall asleep. And she said, we can't take this into the next day, basically.
That's another thing.
And she was like, we're resolving it before we sleep. Because
agreed, we do that too.
That's it. And
we do that too.
You know, when she said that, she was like, we're not falling asleep and then it's going to carry on the next day. She said it's resolved. We talk about
it. Resolved. Not let's watch a film and forget about it.
No, she said we're going to talk about it. She said we're going to talk it through until everything's done.
We do the same.
And that's probably been such a blessing because it's like, it doesn't ever carry on.
Never past the day you're angry.
It's never past the day. It's not like days and days of like, still annoyed about that day. Something happens. Talk about it, resolve. And literally we just say, is that it? We done? Were you good? We just carry on. And you know what's funny? We laugh about times where we've had an argument.
Yeah.
And we actually find it funny because we're like, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like really silly stuff. And that's something I think, you know, it's a companionship and to overcome those things together is understanding that those
into rahmah.
Yeah, and it's understanding disputes are going to happen as part of it. Imagine the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam getting in disputes with his wife and those are resolved. So, you know, there's little mechanisms. I think dealing with it on the day, drawing a line, moving on. And the other thing is like, it's trying to understand someone's emotion behind something. So you might be right.
Empathy.
You might be right, but you can still move past that, right? You don't have to bring it up, or you don't have to. So
when it's cool.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little story, and then I'm done. We had like loads of things to do, and me with my man brain was saying, right, divide the tasks. Do you want to go shopping and I do this, or shall I go shopping and you do? And my wife was like, no, we're going to do both things together. And we got in an argument about it, and we ended up splitting the tasks anyway. But you know, afterwards, I was just like, why did you want to do both things? And she just said, I just wanted to be with you to do those things.
Yeah, to be together.
That's it.
It wasn't to do with the optimal.
That's right.
Achievement of the task.
Yeah, and I wasn't thinking on what she was trying to suggest.
It happens. You know, there's these corporate stories where a guy will write in a diary of working 50 years or whatever. He's retiring, right? And he says, you know, what they could have done is they could have just given me a more comfortable chair. You know, that mindset that I wasn't asking for a raise.
Yeah.
You could have just given me a nicer chair, you know? And so it's not always the case where it's the most optimal result.
That's it.
It's just, how could we have made it more easier within the task, even if the task is longer?
Yeah.
I think I just want to throw one out before I end with my brother Munim. Is we do have a word, a key word in my marriage, where we have this thing where if the argument is resolved and it's still there, you know what I'm talking about? The argument's resolved, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Then we just say truce. Shall we have a truce? And with both sides, we just coalesce and just give up any right of anything. Because the truth is, there's never been something that was crucial to life, marriage, deen, akhirah. It's usually some nonsense anyway.
It's just trivial stuff.
So just truce and then just be okay with each other and just enjoy our time. And you'll literally see 1 minute later, we're enjoying our time, everything's fine or whatever, because we're both agreed that can we just both lay down our arms about either being right or wrong, or how I feel about being made wrong on how it was done.
Definitely.
Truce.
Yeah.
And I
Makes
think
sense.
forgiveness is very, very important. That whoever wants people, Allah to forgive him, always remember when you want everything to the millimeter of how you want your haqq, that's how Allah will treat you. Allah is always watching you to see how you treat others. If you want every little millimeter of your haqq, then Allah's gonna treat you that way as well. He wants we're gonna make sure all your prayers are acceptable, all your prayers are valid, all of the time you did it correctly, and all of that. By the time you'll be finished. So be very careful wanting to be so exacting with others in a way that doesn't really change anything, but you just want to be. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He gets precise with you, you're in a hot place and quick. So you need to be, careful, that if we are the type who really rely on Allah's maghfirah, then we need to find the mechanism of forgiveness, genuine forgiveness, and move on from something and just, and see the wood from the trees, basically, in any situation.
Alhamdulillah, the points you guys raise are so valid that when you take it into your relationship with your children, your family, friends, brothers, sisters, I think you're going to see a more productive and more beneficial sort of relationship going forward. My small point, I think, to end here is a bit different to where I started, is that mistakes happen. You would get angry. I was angry yesterday with my little one. It's what you do afterwards that really counts. Because, as I said, it's innate in us that we will get angry, our sort of emotions will get heightened. And I think one of the first things I tend to realize is actually starting not with where I left off, which was, I'm angry with you and I've done this, is to say, okay, let's take a step back and let's explain why I was angry with you. And I think that is linked to my point on communication. You know that? Yeah. I think it solves so many problems. Definitely. So many problems over the years that I've seen and have been in marriage, that once you actually take a step back and you say to yourself that, you know what, the reason I was angry, I think you mentioned in certain different examples, is the reason I was angry is because I looked from this perspective and point of view, right? And tell me what is your view. So when you don't give another person a chance and the dialogue, then what you don't find is that trust doesn't come, that they feel that next time they don't want to go down that route, isn't it? Because, so I think
the understanding is not going to be there.
Understanding is there. And I think, look, compassion, that comes with it. Empathy comes with it as well. As I said, mistakes happen. It's how you deal with it afterwards is so important. Otherwise, it's going to just carry on in a cycle. And what do we say? That you better be coming to Islamic courses and classes and really nurturing yourself, because coming to counseling is expensive. It's expensive.
It is expensive. I'll mention one story that I was told. I'm not sure if it's probably a true story, but I was told once that there was once a father who was very, very angry, and it was my wife who told me the story. And she said, it's like one of those old folks there. I know we don't do it this much anymore, but they're so good, these parables. And what happened is the father was, so angry at his child that he got a ruler. And I think it's actually a true story. And he whacked it on his hand so hard. The child was crying and everything. And he was so angry at the child because the child had broken, I don't know, something expensive in the house or whatever. And then my mind just went to the end of the story, and it's just really hurtful. And then he'd hit the child on the hand in a way where one of the arteries became blocked and his hand started to go purple, green, purple, dark. He literally hit it so hard that he blocked one of the arteries. And then they went to the hospital, and you don't always get seen straight away. So they had to wait for a long period of time. Meanwhile, the child's getting worse and worse. And it turned out that it had got so bad that they'd had to actually stop it from impacting the rest of the arm. And they actually had to cut his hand. Amputate the hand. Now, look, I don't know if the story is true or not, but what it says about the reality of anger is true. The child was having his hand cut off, and he said to his dad, "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad. I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." As his hand, that when he was told that his hand was amputated, he connected that what he did was so bad that he deserved it, and his father could never recover from that guilt of that. This one thing I've done, and now his hand is having to be amputated, right? And all he can remember is the horror of his son saying, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have broken it." How do you recover from that? When are you going to calm down? When are you going to calm down and get counseling? When are you going to calm down and learn, man? Because at the end of the day, going on the internet, listen to some jokers talk about how is the women's the problem and feminism and everything is this and that and the other. It ain't going to solve your problem, mate. That's not going to solve your problem. The internet ain't going to solve your problem. You physically moving your family and getting something done, that's going to solve your problem. You're going to have to calm down. You're going to lose everything you love. You're not going to see your children. Then you can go in your WhatsApp group and argue with other men about how horrible women are. They don't give you access to the children, right? And you can do all sorts of things after. But at the end of the day, it's not worth losing everything over one fleeting emotion. Let's leave it at that. Jazakumullahu khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. From myself, Ustad Mumin. Jazakumullahu khair. And assalamu alaikum. Take care, everyone. How do I connect to the creator of this universe? How do I connect to the one who put me here? They say that the universe is actually a Quran that is silent. You have the ability to read it, but it's silent, samit. The universe is a Quranun samit. Wal Quranu kawnun natiq. That the Quran is a universe that speaks. That the Quran is a universe that speaks. The books were open and you were commanded to connect what you see out there with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to see through the eye of the heart, to hear through the ears of the heart. You know that there was a moment, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, that you had a moment of clarity that you knew exactly why and what you were living your life for. And that clarity, you hung on to that feeling for the rest of your life. It's enough, Ya Allah. Everything in this world is shouting, is declaring, is praying and saying there is no God but He. The people of the earth look up at the sky filled with twinkling stars, whilst the angels of the skies are looking at the spiritual lights that are lit up in the homes. So as the lights turn on in the cities so that people can pray Fajr, they're looking up and they're seeing stars. And that's what you are seeing when you look up there now. Imagine you could face the child that you once were. Could you look him in the eye and say that you are living the life that you once aspired to live? Ya ayyuha tiflu alladhi kuntu taqaddam. O child that I once was, come to me now. Ma alladhi yajma'una. What shall we now agree upon? Wa madha sanaqul. And what are we going to say? You know, what you see out here when you look at forests and streams, and when you look at the night sky, and you look at all of the, you know, when you're looking at the beaches and the sea and everything else, that these massive landscapes that you think are large, they are actually far greater depth inside your own hearts that are yet to be discovered. And when you find that potential inside yourself, this is what allows you to live a meaningful life.